Hey everyone, so it's time for another fun topic that I've been avoiding for a while, but it always comes up, and it's one of those about the size of the lens and progressive lenses, or how it can affect the design for different prescription powers. Today, that's what we're going to talk about, so let's get into that so we can have some fun and get this techie stuff over with. Now, first of all, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, or I will shove this in your eyes, and it's sharp and pointy. Okay, I'm not actually going to do that, but maybe I would. Anyways, now, so if you're new here, do me a favor and like and subscribe down below so I can keep doing these cool videos and keep giving you more information and keep making myself look insane, because I am. Now, what you actually want to know about today, what we're really here for, is progressive lenses. At least if I've done my work right, that's why you're here, or just lenses in general. Anyways, so with progressive lenses, it always comes up, should I get a bigger lens so I have more area to use the progressive and just make more area, right? Because if it's bigger, everything's bigger, right? No. So with progressive lenses, the trick is, and this varies from prescription to prescription and fit to fit, so it's always going to be different in every case, and that's kind of why you have people like me to really narrow the focus down and fortunately widen the zone out for exactly what you need it for. But with progressive lenses, they vary from design to design. Some of the more expensive ones, you know, they really allow the people that know what they're doing to go in and adjust the parameters for your uses, for your prescription, power, frame fit, everything. The other more expensive options out there automatically do all this, so they don't require an optician maybe that knows as much of what's going on. The bad part is those particular lenses rely on wearer studies. So, you know, they don't have everything figured out, but they get damn close for most things. As far as bigger is better, particularly for those automatically designed lenses, that's definitely not going to be the case in most situations. On a really high minus prescription, it doesn't matter what kind of progressive you put in front of it, you can slide your glasses down this far and you've added a diopter or two of power. So you guys haven't made and you just don't know it, and you just think you've always had thick heavy glasses. Then you turn 60 and need a 250 add power, and all of a sudden doing this, you've got it. Fortunate souls. Me, I'm just a -2 anyways. I just have a +2. There you go. Now it's a +2. We've all got our tricks. Now, what I really want to focus on in this video, and I've already jumped around a whole bunch, with progressive lenses, they're designed on a range, and of course there's so many different designs out there. You have to keep in mind that what you're working with does affect what the end result is. Most of the older stuff, the conventional standard designs, are going to shoot for a fitting height around 20 millimeters. And, you know, that's pretty much where they're designed to work. Anything deeper than that, you're not really adding anything. You're adding more distortion than anything as you get further down through the lens. There's just nothing else there. It just really, you know, about 24 millimeters is the maximum usable zone from the pupil to the bottom of the lens. There's some others that get around 32, 36, but for the most part, a lot of those older conventional designs were set at that 20, 24 range, and that's the short versus the standard length corridors. The freeform designs, like what I was talking about before, the sky's the limit. We can really make anything happen in those, but would you really want to go and say have 30 millimeters below the eye before you get to the reading zone? So here's the thing, to get larger zones, you have to stretch those corridors out because you're blending curves together. And as we blend the curves together, you're going to sharpen or widen that field out, but you're going to soften it and make it bigger at the same time. Softer is bigger, harder is bigger, but with more distortion. Have fun with that one. Now, as for that 2024 height I keep talking about, the reason I keep going back to that was the standard years ago. There was a reason it was the standard. Even modern lens designs, you know, you can go much, much higher, but at the core, it's still going to function its best in that 20 to 24 zone. You can go down 16, 17, still fit a progressive in there, but you really have to use a harder design. You really have to narrow that out arm's length field down because the design ramps up to get to that full near power faster. And the way progressive lenses work, just a quick blip on that, typically you're going to achieve somewhere around 30 to 40% of power right off the bat below the pupil. And depending on the design, that's going to be from between 4 to 6 millimeters below in most cases. Some are onset 0. They're going to start at 2. There's only a few designs I know of like that. There's some really good designs though, but you're not going to find them often. So the reason I say, here we go. Let's stick that 24 right here. So you can see even in my glasses, you know, this is a pretty good size frame, right? But lined up right there with the pupil, we're still, you know, it's 24 from the pupil to the bottom. So as you get into bigger, you get way bigger, right? And actually, I'm not even, yeah, that's probably closer to 22. From memory, this is actually 23 when I measured it for this frame. I've done it a million times, so 24. You know, the camera, the angles, all the weird stuff, parallax error and everything else, that's what we get. Now, I was talking about myopes before on the hyperopes. You guys are special. You do not want a bigger lens ever. It's that simple. The smaller the lens, the faster it ramps up. Your eyes typically are going to be on the shorter end of the spectrum. You just can't use as much of the lens as a myope can. We, fortunate creatures, -2s, are in the happy sweet spot. We can do anything we please. We can use the whole lens easily. It's no problem to make small movements and get through the lens area, or have a +2 right back at you, right? And don't ever take off your glasses with one hand. But for you hyperopes, your eye is shorter. The rotational center is not as long, and that means that to get farther down in the lens, you have to really freaking work to get down there. So, you know, if you've got a progressive lens that does go even that 24 length here, if the design uses all 24 millimeters of that, it's hard. I mean, this is typically one, I hear it more than any other complaint that comes in my doors. Notice they're walking in my doors with the complaint, not leaving. Yeah. Anyway, so those hyperopes with the longer lens, if it's not a design that's designed to accommodate for that and squish it into a shorter zone, even though it's in a larger frame, they're going to have problem reading. It happens every time. So it's very, very common though. The complaint is typically along the lines of, hey, my reading zone is cut off. Well, no, it's not. It's just so darn far out of the way, you can't see it. Now there is occasionally, you know, it was more common 10, 15 years ago when styles were really slim B measurements. In that case, yeah, sometimes it was cut off. Aviators in particular, because it truncates right here off on the nose. Those are really prone, especially with newbies, to get a progressive lens that is cut off. But by far and above, most of the time, it is a hyperopic eye with a lens design that is too long, and they just can't take advantage of it. And they're trying to read right here, and 12, 14 inches, somewhere in there. It just doesn't work. You cannot get to that zone with the shorter eye. It's uncomfortable. Can do it, but for seconds. It's not going to be comfortable. You're just gonna, it's not there. I can't find it. Is more often the problem. Now, all that said, there are some lens designs that really go above and beyond, and they go from distance, intermediate, near, and back to intermediate. Those are weird, and that's a little bit trickier because there is actually an advantage to that, and that is the old looking at the stairs complaint or trying to golf, things like that. So it's a little bit different, and in those you need a really freaking big lens to make it work. Here's the other side of this coin though, so not even talking about the corridor and the length of that, but the width of it. So you do get more distortion off to the sides as well as you move these progressive designs up into bigger and bigger lenses. Sometimes that's harder to tolerate. Some people tolerate it really well. And it's it's really hard to quantify that complaint. Most people, it's just going to be, it feels off or things aren't crisp. The brain just has trouble really getting those signals. It's one of those weird things. It happens, and there's not really too much you can do about it except go to something smaller or, use a specialized lens design that just fuzzes everything out on the corners. And do that on occasion too, but you've got to know going in what you're getting into, because a lot of this stuff you can adapt to, except for the hyperopes. Hyperopes, you're miserable people. We all hate you. We hate seeing you coming. The engineer hyperope, you're my best friend. Everybody else hates you. Hyperopes are hard to work with. You plus far-sighted people freak us nearsighted people out. We don't get it. Our brains don't like it, and your brains don't like the plus prescription that we're trying to give you in the first place. Have fun with that. No. Anyway, back on the corridors. Let's try and focus here a little bit. So on the corridor lengths, they vary quite a bit. And I did mention as that goes through, typically, most designs, you're going to get about 4 millimeters below the pupil, so say there, and then you can see, you get into that add power pretty quickly in that case. So you go just like that. I'm trying to look at me and the camera and everything else. There we go. So you get into that power pretty quickly that way. And then you move down into the zone that you're in, the 60% power. Typically it's going to be about 8 to 10 millimeters. Hey, looky there, I did it. So then you're down in here, and below that is where your full near zone power is going to be. Now, obviously, the width of that varies. How that power ramps up, how you get there is going to vary from design to design, from manufacturer to manufacturer. And then it varies even within manufacturer and the same design, and that's another story and why you will never hear me talking about Verilux lenses, because even their lens is not the same lens. And I'm just going to leave it on that. So good luck figuring that out. Maybe we'll get into that one day. That's all I'm going to get into on this today. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know down in the comments below if this video helped you, or if you have more questions now. I always love more questions and throwing my rulers around. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time.